Today we're going to talk about the installation techniques and overview of a Pentair Easytouch 8 and an Easytouch 4. So I've had this installed for a few years, and I want to talk to you about how I did it. I actually installed mine myself. I had an assisted pool install program, and this is the Easytouch 8. It means 8 because it has 8 things that you can automate. First one's the filter pump, and then it takes you through to another 7. So in this, it has 8 relays also in this that it can turn on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You may not use all 8 because some of these things have to be allocated to, if, for instance, if you have a valve that you're automating. In this case, I have a valve that I'm automating for my cleaner. We've nicknamed this guy Toby. It's a variation of the word robot for fun. So the Easytouch 8 has a low voltage side and a high voltage side. When you are installing this, some of the general concepts that you want to take in mind is it's really good for you to have a cutoff switch out here. This is one of the more affordable cutoff switches. It's the same one that you would use for an air conditioner. 240 volts rated. And to cut off everything, you just simply take this plug out and it cuts the main off. You can also get different versions of a cutoff switch that have, an actual switch or a giant breaker or whatever. Now this is wired up with a 60 amp breaker coming off my main in my house. It's carried underground in a conduit and then comes up out here in the yard, and that conduit goes back to the house for about 70 feet, 60 feet back to the house. Now in my house I have whole house surge protection on my house. In addition to that, I have whole house surge protection out here. You want to do this, you definitely want to do this with this expensive equipment. This is a whole house surge protection breaker, one of the easiest ways that you can provide full protection for your Easytouch, on the high voltage side anyway. And these red lights indicate, and you can get these breakers from different vendors, but these red lights indicate that active surge protection is happening for each leg. There's 2 legs in here, 120 and 120 make up the 240, or 110 makes up 220. And so this is the high voltage side, low voltage side, as I said. Now when you are hooking this up, inside your Easytouch cabinet, you basically have a wiring diagram right here in front of you. Now I'm not going to go over this whole thing, maybe I will in a part 2 a little later, but this gives you an outline of the low voltage side, and nothing really touches except for low voltage wires coming in here to the high voltage side, including this represents your relays, the high voltage relays, and there's inputs from the high voltage relays that show up back over here from your aux panel that turn these on and off. And then you have your breakers in here as well, and you've got a diagram of that and how that looks like on the inside. So this is not just for the novice. You need to know a little bit about electricity to be able to wire these yourself, but if you study it long enough, if you know a little bit about electricity, you could easily do this by yourself. Now I'm going to give you a look inside this panel, doing this with one hand. Now this is on, and this is high voltage. You'd probably want to turn this off before you looked at it. I did not turn that off on mine. For safety's sake, you want to turn off your main, or turn off your main in your house. And this is where I was saying, this is representative of an Easytouch 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 relays. But if I look back in here, I have 8 relays in my system, right? And I've got one for a dual speed pump as well. So that adds a different way of hooking things up. When you have a dual speed pump, you have to hook that up accordingly. And you may have to do, a little bit of studying about this. You can simply keep looking back over here. Every variation of this is basically mentioned over in this area, so it can give you a nice understanding. Just to give you the general concept, I have my high voltage coming in from my cutoff switch that is going back to the house. I have a master, I'm grounded and bonded throughout the whole system. You'll see that big copper wire back there. actually is bonded to the entire system all the way around. So you've got bonding lugs that actually enter your entire system. So your swimming pool and everything. This box is bonded, for example. This heater on my spa is bonded, and you can see the copper wire that carries through on a lug back there. It's also bonded to my pump, and then that goes into a grid that bonds my entire concrete around my pool. It also bonds when I have my ladder in, and then the bonding system also bonds with the water. So the bonding system, very important. You don't want to overlook any of that. You also want to have a master ground rod into your system, and I've got that here. This ground rod goes down into the dirt several feet, optimally about 6 or 7 feet, and it is tied, also bonded into the system, and you'll have that in there. Another thing you might want to think about when you do all this is and this is left out of the wiring, but you want to definitely consider this, is a sacrificial zinc anode. And a sacrificial zinc anode, I have one that I have added to my system. It's part of the bonded system, and I buried it back over here in the dirt, and it's actually a copper wire that comes out. It's in the same system, and that sacrificial zinc anode will protect the corrosion of many parts of your system against rust. It dissolves that sacrificial zinc anode first. If you're familiar with a water heater, it's a very similar concept, so you want to have that in your system. So that's the high voltage side. You'll note these smaller black wires. These smaller black wires are what's turning on these relays. So for example, if I have one for my landscape lights, number 6 shows up as the landscape lights. It's the corresponding relay that I have in here, and I would run the wire down into here, and this is what turns on and applies the voltage to turn on these separate relays. Again, you'll notice that even my relays, I have some underutilized because some of them apply to valves, and you have to allocate those up here to that. So let's take a look up here at the low voltage side and the brain behind the works. Again, taking this off with one hand. The low voltage side, knowing your way around this low voltage side, this is your main primary control board. Now this is labeled, and you can wire this very easily, again, by looking at your wiring diagram over here. This is the back of this board. If I look over here, I've got, for example, the electric heater, and if I orient that right, my electric heater is here. So it's like that, and this board is like that. Electric heater on the left. So you know exactly what every one of these things are for. If I look at my aux, they're across the back, and you can't really see this until you tilt it back, and then you can see the aux. See at the very top, I believe in the camera frame, you can see aux 1 in there all the way through aux 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7. And that carries you through to right there. So, for instance, let me just tell you this. Landscape light, just as an example, is my number 6, is the way I wired it. And when I look back here to number 6, aux 6, see if we can see that. You can see aux 7, there's aux 6. And I have this jumper off of here, and this comes with the whole Easytouch system, those little jumpers. And now it comes, those 2 wires where it's plugged in come down here, and they're wired onto a corresponding relay. And again, you'll know how to do that by looking back over here. And just to carry through my example, my lights were number 6. So I put it on any relay I wanted, and I call that number 6. And then it will come in, and just as the example, number 6, you would tie your aux in right here. See, again, this is for both Easytouch 4 and for 8. So that would be what 4 looks like, and that would be what 8 looks like. All right. So your primary control board also has 2 important things to note on it. If you've got a swimming pool and spa, and you bought the kit the Easytouch system that includes those valves. They plug in right here, and again it will tell you right on the board what those are. That's your intake and that's your return, and that's what will set in motion the valves in the right order for that. And again, just carry it back over here and look at your wiring diagram, and you'll see intake and return over here. So that tells you just briefly how that works. I have a third actuator, as I mentioned earlier, that turns my I do not have a separate pump in my case for a cleaner. I turn on my cleaner, my side pressure cleaner, with a low voltage wire here. Comes with the actuator. Now these two came in the kit, this one did not, so it was an extra one, and it turns on my cleaner, and I've identified it and called that one Toby, the nickname of my cleaner in here. Let's talk about your chlorinator. Now a lot of systems today you're putting in a saltwater chlorinator, and I have one here. I believe mine's the IC20. That's for a 20,000 gallon pool approximately, and that's about what I've got. And now if I look back over here, the chlorinator will come in and plug in right here on this COM port extension board, and that serves as a COM port to be able to communicate back over there to the IC20. And if I look over here, I've got another place for another COM port, well, two more COM ports, and then one that will come back over here and be wired to your board right here. Don't pay attention to this black wire. If you want to see what this black wire is doing, you can watch some of my other videos, because it's powering a separate circuit, separate automation that I put in to work with Alexa easily. If you want to know about ScreenLogic, and if you've watched my other videos, you've seen that ScreenLogic had not been working for a long time on my pool. I actually fixed mine lately. There was a part of the board that had gone wrong, and I fixed it with the help of a guy named Tom in California. Shout out to Tom if you're watching this, thank you. And I've got my ScreenLogic installed out here, and so that's how I automated my system. And now's a good time to talk about ScreenLogic, just as a sidebar. So if you've opted for the ScreenLogic system, this is how this is generally wired. The ScreenLogic system needs an internet connection, which I have here. And the way that I have mine wired is I don't use the Pentair kit to give a wireless internet connection out here. I'm actually using a network adapter that's wireless back to the house. So this gets on my internet, and that provides me with one dongle adaptation. My advice is not to hardwire the 4 wires from ScreenLogic back to the house. Don't do that. Do something wireless. And the reason that is because many people in the pool forums online have said that the ScreenLogics get burnt out, and mine did this no less than 4 times through tiny surges that would take out a COM port chip, an RS485 chip that's back here, and burn out your board. And that's generally what I had to fix. Not an easy fix at all, and not for the novice. So you want to make sure that your ScreenLogic is wirelessly connected either through the Pentair wireless kit or through a wireless network adapter back to your house to get the internet. So there's nothing running underground for the RS45 to tie this 4 wires back to the house. So these 4 wires from the and then they're color coded on the side of this. It tells you what they are. These 4 wires will come in, and they could attach here directly, but you may have an IC20 too for your chlorinator. It's going to attach to your COM port connector board here, and mine connects right here, and also tells you the color codes to use. And then this COM port distributor board, or whatever it's called here, goes back out to the board with 4 wires and comes back into your main primary control board. And again, if you want to know what that looks like over here, shows up over here. So like I said, everything, if you study this long enough, it'll start to make sense. Everything you need to know is right here on your wiring diagram. Let's talk about spa side remote. You may have a spa side remote you want to put in. and it looks like this. It physically looks like this. That would be out near your spa or near your house, and you could turn on 4 things with it: pool, spa, lights, heater, whatever you wanted to do. And then it's got an orange light on the thing that tells you if it's on or off. I don't use that, but I do use these inputs to do some other automation system. You can watch my other videos as to how I'm doing that. But the spa side remote, you turn it on in the menu after you program, you activate it over here, and you tell it what 4 things you want. Turn it on, and then you tell it what 4 things. And the spa side remote is wired exactly as you see here. It's got the color codes here, and if you buy the spa side remote, the real one, the physical one that goes in, you'll have the color coded wires if you use the right wire. If not, figure out the wires are to carry these red to red, yellow to yellow, green to green, blue to blue. All right, and then there's a black common in there too, and then there's an orange wire for that little light. All right, watch my other video if you want to see how I leveraged this spa side remote, not for a physical button out by the spa, but to easily automate this with Alexa. And if you don't have a ScreenLogic, this is something I made. I didn't make this. You buy this on Amazon or somewhere like that. It's a Sonoff. Watch that video. It shows you exactly how to do that. And I could say things like Google, turn pool on, and it turns on. Actually, I'm using my phone, so it's not working right now. So ScreenLogic can do some of those things, but the ScreenLogic app is really good to use as an app, but not so good with Alexa integration. And right now, actually, the Alexa integration is offline. All right, a little bit more about wiring up your system. If I want to look at some of these other things, when you wire your system initially, you'll have temperature sensors. Water and air are 2 common ones. You may not have a solar system, but that's where that would go there to measure how hot the water is in your solar system. This is going to measure your water temperature. Now, if you have a pool and spa, it only measures it in one place. All right, that's good to know. And it's going to measure it close by the pump. So it's not going to be the actual temperature of your pool, inside your pool. It's going to be of the water that's flowing through your system. The air temperature, that module and both the modules look very similar to this. So this is the one for air. It just needs to be hanging out in the air. This is not a bad place to put it. And this is a screw thing. You could have screwed it to the wall, but when I did this several years ago, sorry it's not in the camera, but here it is there. Could have been screwed to the wall. This is fine just hanging out here. It's gathering the air temperature. So you'll know that through your system and through your ScreenLogic. And your water one gets put in. There's a small hole that's drilled here, and then a band goes to make that a watertight connection, and this comes back with simply 2 wires. These 2 wires get fished up through here through the low voltage area. You see this? This keeps the low voltage wires from coming into the high voltage area. So this is fished up through there, comes in through here, and is brought in here on the 2 terminals. Now, I don't think it matters the red and the green, the red and the white, and the red and the white over here. As you see, I've got them in different orders in here, so I know it doesn't matter. The white, red, and I've got red and then white. So you hook those up. This one goes to the air. This one goes to the water. All right? That's how you do that. If you've got a heater, this is where your heater will be plugged up. There's a bypass switch over here in the heater. My heater, I mostly use it for the spa, but I could heat the pool. The controls over here basically become not usable because you're going to bypass all those. I think it's called a fireman switch. I can't remember how I did that now, but it disables that. You put the heater fireman switch on the right thing there. You can read that in your Pentair heater manual, master temp heat manual. And although this will read out the temperature of the water, these buttons do nothing because now it's powered over here. Same with the Chlorinator. The Chlorinator, you could actually, I think you can use those buttons on the Chlorinator, but now you just adjust it over here or through your ScreenLogic system. Let's talk about the high voltage side and what some of your breakers might look like. So you're wiring a pool light in your pool. You want to have a GFCI, especially for that. And it's still code. A lot of code hasn't caught up to LEDs. I've got LED low voltage in my pool, but that's how my LED box over here is powered. goes from high voltage, there's a little transformer in there, takes it to 12 volt. And this GFCI, of course, that's ground fault circuit interrupter. In case there's any water crossover or anything, it immediately turns that off, right? So that's supposed to be a dedicated breaker. I've got this side outlet, very handy to have. You want to put a side outlet in here, if not another one in another location. Now that's separate, and I'm able to plug in a couple of things over here. And my pet containment system has nothing to do with pool and some of the extra automation that I had. So that's a good thing. I've got that direct wired. It's a GFCI outlet separate from that. The other thing that you will want to do in here is your pool will have, you'll probably be on 220, 240, and you'll have a dedicated breaker for that, and that's right here, and that's dedicated to my pool pump. This pool pump, and it shows you how to do this all over here again, but the pool pump, the power from that comes from there and goes into my master relay for my 2-speed pump. My situation is a little different than yours, probably because I have a 2-speed pump. You may have the IntelliFlow pump or one of the nice pumps there, or a single stage pump. Those are just fine too. My other breakers for some accessories, and as I stated earlier, that this breaker, I highly encourage you to put surge protection that protects this whole unit. These breakers can be had for $60 to $100, somewhere in there, that will protect everything. It's like having a trip outlet or whatever inside your house that protects surge protection, but this is whole house or whole panel. Okay, now let's talk about how this main primary control board gets powered. You have 2 transformers in here, as I may have mentioned earlier. I'm splicing this together in a couple areas, but these, one goes to your saltwater chlorinator, you can see over here, and then this one powers your whole system for low voltage up here, the low voltage side. And the concept is the low voltage comes in up here, comes back out, powers your board here, and this plug's already in this location from the factory, as I remember. You may have to do a wire or two in here. Let's talk about how the PCB gets powered. So that's by that transformer, but it's powered from usually a dedicated breaker. So this will turn off the electronics in my system from this 110 breaker. This wasn't meant to be a comprehensive video or anything to instruct you the detailed finite wiring of the system, but if you study, as I said, this diagram that you'll have in your box very closely, you'll have everything you need to know to be able to do that, as long as you've got some experience there wiring. If not, get a buddy or someone that is an electrician that will help walk you through it. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat window. Please subscribe. It makes a big difference. Please subscribe, like, share, and subscribe. I've just about got enough videos to start monetizing my channel again, as YouTube changed the rules a couple years ago. Thanks for watching.